We live on a planet that feels completely known. Satellites circle the Earth, exposing every corner. Global maps are detailed down to the meter, and almost every part of the world is already inhabited or has at least been visited by people. But even with the world being this mapped out, there are still places that science hasn't reached. Many of these places are already home to people, but no formal scientific surveys have ever been done. The plants and animals may be known locally, but remain undocumented, unstudied, and unknown to the wider world. Some places have hardly been visited by humans at all, like the depths of the ocean. Only about 25% of Earth's ocean floor has been mapped in detail, and new discoveries are being made with surprising frequency. Almost every dive reveals new species, and sometimes even entire ecosystems. In 2024, researchers announced the discovery of the world's largest deep-sea coral reef, an area covering more than 2.6 million hectares, and it was only 160 kilometers off the eastern coast of the United States. Scientists had suspected since the 1960s that the area was rich in corals, but only recently have they had the tools to explore it properly. Even less explored are the ocean's trenches, which remain largely unseen by human eyes. Some are deeper below the surface than Mount Everest is tall, and while we know life exists down there like fish, crustaceans, and strange soft-bodied invertebrates, the true diversity of these habitats is impossible to guess, and the technology to reach these depths is only just beginning to catch up. The ocean is often the first place people think of when talking about Earth's unexplored frontiers. But in this video, we're going to look at some of the others, places that are far more accessible, but that science has yet to explore. These are some of the last true frontiers of biological discovery left on Earth. Rainforests have been explored by scientists for generations. Rivers have been mapped, plants have been cataloged, and many animals have been described. But humans are really only able to explore these forests along a single plane, the forest floor. Species that can be easily observed from the ground, like mammals and birds, are well documented. But the reality is that the canopies of the world's rainforests are essentially unexplored, and they're home to far more species than we can imagine. This green ceiling stretches across the tropics, from the Amazon to the Congo Basin, from the jungles of Southeast Asia to New Guinea. Rising 30 or 40 meters above the ground, the canopy can stretch unbroken for thousands of kilometers, creating a series of unique habitats that can vary from tree to tree. Until surprisingly recently, it was simply too difficult to study these canopies. Early researchers could do little more than shoot specimens from the treetops or climb the occasional tree. It wasn't until the late 20th century that new tools to explore the treetops were developed. Canopy cranes, rope systems, airships, and walkways have finally opened this hidden world to scientific exploration, and what we're discovering is incredible. The canopy is an entire world of its own, filled with species that live and die without ever touching the ground. Sunlight floods this upper layer, creating a rich habitat for animals and plants that depend on its light and warmth. The structure of the canopy forms a patchwork of microhabitats: mossy branches, tangles of vines, water-filled bromeliads, each one a small island with unique life. In 2021, a team of dipterists, entomologists specializing in flies, went deep into the Brazilian Amazon to find out more about fly diversity in the forest canopy. They suspected that the diversity of insects on the treetops was likely much different than that of the forest floor, but they had no idea just how different. They used a 40-meter steel tower that had been constructed in the 1970s to access the canopy, and over the course of 2 weeks, they collected a total of 16,000 flies. What surprised them most was that, despite the fact that they were all experts on fly diversity, they encountered thousands of species that none of them recognized, and almost all of these were new to science. If there are this many species of undescribed flies, there are likely thousands upon thousands of other undescribed arthropods, amphibians, and plants hiding in the canopy. The team described the experience as feeling like they had discovered a new continent. In 2017, an expedition into the canopy of Malaysia's Penang Hill rainforest returned with extraordinary results. Despite being just a short distance from a major human metropolis, scientists recorded more than 1,400 species in a 2-week blitz that involved 117 scientists and high school students from Malaysia and the United States. Among the finds were new species of scorpion, orchids, ferns, and epiphytes, and they also uncovered evidence of tree-dwelling mammals like flying squirrels, many of which had never been documented in that region before. Every climb into the canopy uncovers species no one has ever recorded before, and scientists believe that the vast majority of canopy life still remains unknown, making the canopies of the world's tropical rainforests one of Earth's greatest unexplored frontiers. Mountain ecosystems across the world are still waiting to be scientifically explored, and the number of undescribed species that they may still hold is staggering. Just like islands in the world's oceans have allowed many unique species to evolve thanks to their geographical isolation, mountains can have the same effect. They can create what scientists call ecological islands. From summit to base, changes in temperature, rainfall, and sunlight over short distances can lead to plants and animals at various elevations becoming isolated, unable to pass from one mountain to the next. In effect, each mountain can become an island, cutting species off from other populations and creating entirely unique species. Because these ecosystems are so numerous and can be so hard to reach, many of them remain almost entirely scientifically unexplored. One of the most extraordinary examples of this is on the island of New Guinea. The island is one of the most rugged mountainous islands on Earth, and its landscape is shaped by the towering peaks, deep valleys, and dense rainforests. Travel across the island is incredibly difficult, and these natural barriers didn't just shape the wildlife, they also shaped the people who live there. Over tens of thousands of years, human communities became isolated from one another by the mountain ranges and river systems on the island. As a result, New Guinea is home to one of the greatest diversities of human cultures and languages found anywhere in the world. More than 800 languages are spoken across the island, many confined to just a single valley or region. And the same forces that created this incredible variety of human cultures also shaped the island's plants and animals. Every mountain and every valley on New Guinea has the potential to act as an ecological island. This is why New Guinea continues to be a haven for the discovery of new species. Almost every major biological survey uncovers animals or plants that are entirely new to science, hidden in forests that few outsiders have ever entered. One of the best examples is the Star Mountains, found in the center of the island. It's one of the most rugged and inaccessible mountain ranges anywhere on the planet, where dense rainforests, deep gorges, and constant cloud cover have kept most of the range beyond the reach of scientific exploration. Small teams of researchers have managed to gain access, and they inevitably uncover species new to science. Strange marsupials, rare birds, and unusual reptiles and insects. The interior of the range has barely been touched, meaning that there are likely entire ecosystems still waiting there to be scientifically explored. South America is home to another strange set of mountains that are yielding new species with regularity. The Tepui tablelands may look familiar to you. They've been the inspiration for many stories of zoological mystery and discovery, like Arthur Conan Doyle's famous novel, The Lost World, and more recently, Disney's movie Up. These towering sandstone plateaus rise abruptly above the forest below, with sheer cliffs that can be more than 1,000 meters high, stirring up a sense of mystery as to what could be living on their summits. Each tepui has been isolated for millions of years, meaning that just like in the mountains of New Guinea, each plateau could be home to a wholly unique set of flora and fauna. The few expeditions that have reached the tops have uncovered species found nowhere else on Earth. Carnivorous pitcher plants that trap insects in pools of rainwater, tiny frogs that have adapted to life among bare rock and moss, and unique shrubs and orchids that cling to the windswept surfaces. Of the roughly 115 plateaus, only a handful have been scientifically surveyed, and even the ones that are visited the most frequently continue to yield discoveries of new species. The world's mountain regions yield countless species waiting to be added to the scientific record, with many peaks and valleys yet to be studied at all. Many underestimate the diversity of freshwater habitats. Despite the fact that less than 1% of Earth's water is found in lakes, rivers, and streams, about 40% of Earth's fish species live in these habitats. In fact, freshwater habitats are some of the most biologically diverse and poorly explored ecosystems on the planet. And just like mountaintops, many rivers and streams act as ecological islands of their own. In these systems, even small barriers like waterfalls, dry gaps between watersheds, or changes in water chemistry can isolate populations of fish, amphibians, and invertebrates. Over time, these isolated populations evolve separately, leading to species that are found only in a single stream, along a single lakeshore, or in a single drainage basin. That isolation, combined with the difficulty of accessing remote waterways, has created conditions where species can remain unknown to science, even in areas that have otherwise been surveyed. One of the clearest examples of this is in the Amazon River basin. While many parts of the lowland rainforest have been mapped and studied, the freshwater systems that crisscross the region remain vastly underexplored. In recent years, ichthyologists have discovered dozens of new species of catfish, nightfish, and tetras in remote tributaries, some of which flow for hundreds of kilometers before joining a main river. Entire sections of the basin still have no comprehensive biological surveys, and researchers regularly report finding species that exist only in one small stream or along one section of a river system. Some are highly specialized, living in fast-flowing rocky creeks or tannin-rich blackwater pools, and their limited ranges make them especially vulnerable to environmental changes. The Upper Congo Basin, especially in the Democratic Republic of Congo, is an incredibly rich and underexplored freshwater system. In recent years, expeditions in rivers like the Lualaba, Lufira, and Shuapa have uncovered dozens of new fish species, particularly among cichlids, elephantfish, and catfish. Many of these discoveries have occurred in small tributaries or fast-flowing forest streams that had never been surveyed before. For example, in the Upper Lufira system alone, scientists recently documented multiple new cichlid species that appear to be restricted to individual lakes or river stretches. And some areas of the Congo Basin still have no formal scientific collections at all, making them likely candidates for major future discoveries. New Guinea is another hotspot for biodiversity and has highly localized fish species, including rainbow fish and gobies. In some cases, different species are found in streams just a few kilometers apart, separated only by ridges or shifting watersheds. Recent fieldwork in the region has added new species of freshwater fish and shrimp to the scientific record, but most of the island's aquatic biodiversity remains undocumented. Another example is the Western Ghats in southern India. This mountain range is laced with short, fast-moving streams that drain into the Arabian Sea. Surveys in these streams have revealed an extraordinary degree of endemism, particularly among amphibians. Dozens of new frog species have been discovered over the past 2 decades, many confined to a single hilltop or valley. Because the region is densely forested and many of its waterways are seasonal, large portions of it remain unsurveyed and new discoveries continue at a steady pace. Freshwater systems may seem more accessible than mountains or canopies, but their complexity and isolation make them just as ripe for discovery. Some of the world's least explored places haven't been overlooked because of lack of technology or harsh terrain, but because of human limitations like conflict or political instability. In many cases, scientists have long suspected that these inaccessible regions hold unique species, but they've been unable to reach them safely or ethically. When those barriers begin to lift, the discoveries that follow often confirm just how much life has been hidden away. This is what happened in northern Colombia. For decades, vast parts of the country's interior were off limits due to armed conflict. Guerrilla groups, drug cartels, and paramilitary forces made scientific work in the region too dangerous. But beginning in the 2010s, peace agreements and improved security allowed biologists to enter forests and mountains that hadn't been surveyed in over half a century. What they found confirmed years of speculation. These ecosystems were full of species that had never been recorded before, and others that were once thought extinct. Expeditions into the Serranía de los Yariguíes and the Sierra Nevada de Santa Marta led to the discovery of new frogs, birds, orchids, and reptiles. Some of the mountains in this region now rank among the most irreplaceable biodiversity hotspots on Earth. And yet, even today, much of the region remains unexplored. The northern forests of Myanmar offer another example, though access remains limited. These forests are part of a broader biodiversity hotspot that stretches into India and China, and they're believed to shelter a rich array of rare plants and animals. But decades of armed conflict, military rule, and territorial disputes have kept most scientific teams out. Forest cover in the region remains largely intact, and satellite images show little human development in many areas. Still, what lives in these forests is mostly speculation, with only scattered records and local reports hinting at the species that might be present. One animal that researchers hope may persist in the region is the pink-headed duck. Long thought to be extinct, the species once ranged across modern-day India, Nepal, Bhutan, Bangladesh, and Myanmar. And while it hasn't had a confirmed sighting since 1935, a few unconfirmed sightings have been made in the areas closest to the Myanmar border, as recently as the 2010s. It's hoped that this species of duck persists in the remote wetlands of northern Myanmar, but the limited access given to scientists has prevented thorough surveys, and researchers believe that if the pink-headed duck does survive, it would only be in very low numbers. In the center of Africa, the Congo Basin swamp forests span tens of thousands of square kilometers. These flooded forests are among the most inaccessible ecosystems on the planet. Their isolation is made worse by regional instability, limited infrastructure, and years of conflict in surrounding areas. Despite these challenges, some surveys have revealed remarkable unknown species. In fact, in the last 10 years, researchers have managed to describe at least 750 new species of plant and animal from the Congo Basin, a number which likely represents only a small fraction of the total number of species that remain undescribed. However, biological surveys within the swamp forests of the Congo remain extremely rare. Camera traps and limited fieldwork suggest that there may be undiscovered primates, ungulates, and bird species hiding in these floodplain systems. Some of the most fascinating stories of cryptids come from this region as well, like the killer horned beast called Emele Ntuka, the giant pterosaur-like flying creature Kongamato, the giant lizard or snake-like animal Nguma Monene, or perhaps most famously, the supposed surviving sauropod Mokele Mbembe. It's thanks in large part to the inaccessibility of the region that the unverified stories of these massive creatures persist. But not every place that researchers lack access to is a giant ecosystem or war-torn country. In the Bay of Bengal sits the now famous North Sentinel Island. This small island is part of the Andaman Islands of India, and it only covers an area of about 60 square kilometers. It's covered entirely in dense, untouched forest, and for good reason. The island is also home to the Sentinelese people, one of the last uncontacted indigenous groups on Earth. For ethical and legal reasons, the Indian government has prohibited any outside access to the island. But even if the government hadn't prohibited people from visiting, the Sentinelese living there don't want outside visitors. They regularly chase away anyone who comes too close, and on rare occasion, they've even ended the lives of people who tried going ashore. As a result, the island has never been biologically surveyed. From satellite imagery, we know it's still densely forested with native species, and the surrounding reefs appear healthy. The Sentinelese are not known to grow any crops or keep any domestic animals, instead being hunter-gatherers who survive off the native species found both on the island and in the surrounding waters. Because no scientist has ever had a chance to study the biodiversity of North Sentinel Island, what species live there remains unknown. It may house unique subspecies of plants and animals, similar to those found on nearby islands. Or it could have species found there and nowhere else. But for now, the mystery of the biological diversity of the island remains. And that's it for this week's video. I hope you enjoyed learning about the parts of our planet that are yet to be fully biologically explored. I want to say a special thanks to my patrons. It's because of their ongoing support that I'm able to produce a video like this every week. If you want to support the channel, consider joining us on Patreon. The link is in the video description below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.